All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Damilola Adeleke. So today we are going to be looking at some of the factors that influence the cost of your ads, especially on Facebook. What are those factors that that influence the cost of your ads? Sometimes you notice that the cost of your ads are lower. Sometimes you notice they're higher, and you're wondering why. Why is this so? We're just going to look at some of the factors that influences this. All right, the very first factor would be your campaign objective. Now, one thing you should realize is that the campaign objective would always and always affect the costs. So if your campaign objective, for example, is brand awareness or engagement, usually the cost will be lesser, right, than objectives like conversion, which is lower the funnel, right, is going to be way higher than that of awareness or engagement, right? So you must realize this. So in understanding this, you know that, okay, if I'm running a brand awareness or engagement campaign, the cost will not be as much as when I'm trying to drive conversion, because it's easier to get people to see your ads than to get them to put down their money or to buy a product or to sign up for something and the like. So your objective would always affect, right, the cost of your ads. So the second thing to also look at would be the audience size, right? So when it comes to audience size with Facebook, the larger the audience, right, the broader your audience is, generally your cost will be less, right, than if you have a smaller audience, right? Because when your audience are large, you are typically prospecting, right? So people are still up the funnel, right? So it's easy to acquire, and Facebook algorithm will always help you get your costs at a lesser. It will look for ways to help you get it at a lesser rate, right, depending on if your audience are very large, right? So but when you begin to come down the funnel, right, the cost would always be higher. So if you have a smaller audience, like for example, maybe you are now trying to retarget to people who have already interacted with your campaign, or you're trying to reach some warmer audience, right? Not just broad audience now, but you're trying to reach to people who have already engaged one way or the other with your brand. Now the size, the cost rather begins to increase, in a way. So you must understand that your audience size is a very big factor that affects your campaign or the cost of your campaign. Okay. Also, another thing that affects the cost would be your bidding strategy. So depending on how you have instructed Facebook to spend your budget, right, that will affect your costs. Whether you are working with the lowest cost or the cost cap, or you're doing minimum ROAS, right? That's minimum return on ad spend. So depending on the bidding strategy you have decided to employ, right, your costs will be affected. Then another thing is your click-through rates, right? So click-through rates would always affect, especially if you are doing a traffic campaign, right? So you will see a higher cost when the click-through rate, right, is low, for example, on Facebook, because it's expected that the more people see your ad, the more they should click it. So if the people seeing your ad is lesser than the people that are actually clicking, so which means your click-through rates now, right, is not high enough, right? So usually the cost of acquisition or the cost per click would always be higher. So one of the things you try to do is to ensure that more the people that are seeing your ad are actually clicking it. If more of that is happening, then your costs per click would be reduced. So oftentimes you might just have to check your targeting. If you notice that we are getting a lot of impressions, a lot of reach, but little clicks, right, that means that something might be wrong with your targeting. So you probably have to check that there's a disconnect between what the people you are targeting and the ads that you're showing them. So you probably have to change that, or maybe even change your messaging entirely. So your click-through rates also would affect the costs of your ads. So another thing that usually would affect the cost of your ad would be the industry. So you must never generalize when it comes to the cost of your ads, because different industries have different costs, right? So depending on the industry you are at, some industries are way expensive than other industries. So you must understand the industry you are in, understand, you can do research on what is the average cost in that industry. Now this helps you to be able to judge whether you are spending so much or you are on track with your costs, because different industry will always vary, right? So you must understand that part. Then also a very important one, before I talk about the last one, would be the season, right? So it has been historically proven that in the later part of the year, which is in like the third and fourth quarter, the cost of ad generally increases, right? Because it's beginning to come into the holiday season, so costs usually would go on the high. A lot of people are running ads at that point, competition is very high, so the cost for advertising would always increase. So you must understand that when it comes to certain seasons, the cost of your ad would increase. So you are not wondering why is it that your ad you're spending more at this time. No, it's just the way it is, it's just the season. So it happens like that. Then the last one I would like to talk about also would be your landing page. Depending if you're running, for example, like a conversion campaign, you're trying to drive sign-ups. Now, depending on how your landing page is structured, that can really impact the cost of your ads. If, for example, you are trying to make people sign up for something and you have a multi-level kind of form where you have to fill in maybe a particular phase, go to another phase, before you have the final completion of the form. Usually the cost to acquire such lead would be higher, right? So you must realize that as well. So I'm sure that you've learned a few things with the factors that I've just shared with you that can influence your costs. Now, if you have other factors that you think have influenced your cost in the past, please feel free to share it in the comment below. And don't forget to also like and subscribe to my channel so that more people can see this video, and you can also share with your friends and families. So I hope this helps. Yeah, I do have a wonderful time ahead. Yeah, thank you. Bye.